Welcome to This Week in Anderson High School Sports here in Eastview Media, powered by Sidearm Sports. I'm Jason Griefer, and we are joined by Anderson Athletic Director Chris Newton, joined from the Casa de Newton here today as Anderson has a day off here from school on this Monday. Newt, are you still in trouble with the golf course in the backyard?
Yeah, when Jake and Joey left, my golfing privileges kind of got revoked, and it's now become a front yard and a backyard again.
Well, we'll talk about your high school golf team up here in just a little bit, and maybe they can take your focus off of that
Sounds
going
good.
forward, because they still have some things to accomplish going forward. We'll get into that here in just a little bit, but let's start off on the pitch, and let's start with the boys soccer team. They're still finishing up the regular season. Of course, the postseason draw has been announced, and your team did get a first round bye. They will take on in the second round of the playoffs the winner of Lakota West and Edgewood. That match will come on October 22nd, Thursday, October 22nd. So they know the postseason draw, but they've got to finish out the regular season. They'll get Walnut Hills coming up this week to finish the regular season. So we talked last week about the big match against Loveland, and of course Loveland comes out on top of that one 2-0. So got to move forward there, and that's what they'll do best. And so now they're moving forward from that. Don't have to focus on that match any longer. What are the coaches wanting to see in this Walnut Hills match to get the boys back in form ahead of the playoffs?
I think just continuously playing solid soccer and playing team soccer, and every team goes through a little bit of adversity as the year goes on, and we were pretty lucky in all of our sports early on, but we're getting hit pretty tough right now with some adverse conditions.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, when adversity strikes, you got to band together and come closer together and circle the wagons. And so, we were not at full strength this week. And which is, bad, and it's good. It's good in the fact that it gives some other kids opportunities to get there on the field of play and get after it. It's bad in one sense because you don't have, all the guns, all the bullets in your gun, and you want to be able to have everything at your, at your fingertips there. Mm-hmm. So, but Tuesday, I think our kids played really well. Loveland's a very good team. They played really well. And then Saturday, we lost to Chaminade Julienne. Mm-hmm. But again, we had a few kids out. So I think once we get a couple kids back, and the kids that did step in played very well. So I'm excited where this team is going to go.
So basically, with some things to go through, no sense of panic within the team right now. They feel like they can still turn. They feel like they're still on the right path.
Oh yeah, no panic at all. And that's the last thing in the world. Both of our soccer coaches. Yeah. When we had the girls, when they tied the other day, there's no panic. It's stay the course, trust in what you've done, and continue on.
Yeah, no doubt. Let's talk about the girls here. Their draw has been announced. They're a 6 seed. They're going to go ahead and play in round one. They're not taking the bye here, but you're going to get Middletown in round one, who is yet to win a match. If you're able to get through that, round two, you'll see Winton Woods, who was also winless on the season. So you've got a real shot here to at least get through to round three, where you'll likely see some scrub program named Mount Notre Dame waiting for you in round three. I'm kidding with that. Mount Notre Dame is always a great program, but that's for down the road. But they do know the draw. However, you've got a couple of big matches this week. You got Walnut Hills coming up on Tuesday, and then of course the focus now turns with the girls to the match against Loveland on Thursday. We talked about the boys last week. The girls this week get Loveland league title. It's everything you want. Both teams are unbeaten right now in the league, and that match will basically determine the league champion. And that's pretty cool that the final game of the regular season in the league turns into that one there. These are the two best teams all season long. They've been. Break down this match here with Loveland. I know they're not going to look past Walnut Hills, but we can do that here on the show. And break this match down with Loveland, and what you think your girls will need to do to win the crown, because like the Loveland boys, Loveland girls are pretty darn good too.
You bet. And they've been pretty darn good for a long time. So and there'll be a lot at stake, not only this year, but I'm sure Loveland is not pleased that we took the crown last year,
Mhm.
and they're going to want that back. So, it's we're going to put our foot in the ground on Thursday, and we're going to get after it. There's no doubt. I'm excited. I love to see when competition like this. I love to see when we go on the road and you really see how your kids are going to act and behave, and we and play. We want to take this game. There's no doubt about it, to win the league championship. But we also know this: there's a big prize down the road, and so having this type of game before you start the state tournament is incredible,
Mhm.
because our girls, after this game on Thursday, there shouldn't be a single game that anybody has too many butterflies to go into, because this is the greatest preparation that you can have. It's like in your conference tournaments, and
Mhm.
doing stuff like that. I mean, those are awesome when you watch March Madness, because those kind of situations, you really find out a lot about your kids. You get them exposed to the experiences, and then you go. So we'll definitely be ready for Tuesday, when Coach Boyd never takes anybody lightly. So we'll be
Yeah.
ready for Tuesday, and then we'll turn the page for that to Loveland on Wednesday, and we'll focus on that.
Yeah, it should be a very exciting one. Again, as we said, the last game of the regular season, it's going to determine the league champion. What more could you want, especially as you said, with the playoffs lurking
Yeah, that's awesome,
around the corner?
man.
Yeah, it's
Oh man, I'll be painted up. I'll be jacked, ready to go.
nobody is surprised by that. Energy drinks will not be necessary. Maybe some decaf at the high school this week. Let's talk about your volleyball team. They also, like the soccer teams, they know their playoff draw. They'll start the playoffs next Tuesday against Sycamore. So you'll see a GMC team there, and then if they win that one, they'll get Kings in the second round there. But again, got to take care of round one before you can get to round two there. But we've talked the last couple of weeks how it's been kind of a struggle leading up to this last week and moving forward going into the playoffs. However, righted the ship as of late. You won two of their last three, including a sweep over a very solid Lakota East squad. I saw them a few weeks back against Princeton. They look like a pretty formidable team, Lakota East, and your team was able to get them in a sweep. So now momentum's going in the right direction. You get Milford, McNick this week to close out the regular season. How big were those wins last week, getting it over Lakota East and also Walnut Hills this late in the year, given how much they had struggled going in?
It's huge. I mean, going and getting a conference win versus Walnut, and then playing, a GMC big time school in Lakota East, and playing the way that we did on Sunday. It was awesome. It will give so much confidence to our girls. But here's another program that's kind of been bitten with a little bit of adversity,
Mhm.
and we really try to stress the fact, every single kid on that roster is incredibly important. And and if kids go down for one reason or another, it's the next man up or the next woman up. And volleyball has done a great job at that. They've battled a lot of adversity here, and they've got their mainstay in Sammy Engel, Slammy. I'm gonna tell you what, I mean, she's just an absolute hammer. Um, but it's like in baseball, you got your number one. When you put her out on the court, some good things are going to happen. And but we've had girls step in. Caroline Wilson is a freshman. She's coming in and played good minutes for us on Saturday and the week before. Kelly Slusher has really stepped up. She's a sophomore on varsity that's gotten a lot of playing time here lately. So it's just Julia Browning, another sophomore that's got some playing time. And so what you're doing is you're seeing girls taking advantage of opportunities that are presented, and not from good situations, but it doesn't, good or bad, they're opportunities, and they're ready to go. And so I'm excited. This is a fun group. Coach Olson is a very, very good leader of kids. And so she's got them in the right direction. So we're excited to see how things play out.
This has not been an easy league this year,
Woo, not at all.
especially with Lebanon coming in, and Lebanon has run right through the field in their first year in the ECC, and they're not the only team that's performed well. It seemed like you go down the list, and really everybody has been strong this season. How would you say your young players, like the ones you've just mentioned, have handled that this year? They're coming in, they're getting varsity experience, but it just seems like every single night they're in a sense being thrown to the wolves because you have one really good opponent after another every single time out.
Oh, there's no doubt about that. I mean, Caroline Wilson, for example, is playing 8th grade. She's playing against, 13-year-olds last year. Now she's going up against 18-year-olds. Callie Slusher's playing JV. A lot of our kids were playing JV last year. They're playing varsity. So the exposure that they're getting, because every level you go up of athletics, the speed picks up a ton. And, for them to get that experience right now at a young age, is great. And, girls like Caroline and girls like Julia and girls like Callie, those sophomores, girls like Katie Camden, those sophomores, they look up to Sammy Engel. And now they get to be on the court with her. And so that is so awesome that they get to join her and be a part of, what the team accomplishes. And they'll learn from her. Claire Kirk is another good senior that provides leadership on that squad. So Lily DeClerc. So there's a good mixture of seniors. And now what we're having is this young group. And so they get to lead them in the right direction. And that's exciting.
Yeah, no doubt. And especially now they're going to get their some of their first taste of playoff experience going ahead,
Yeah.
but they've got to finish out the regular season strong this week against Milford and McNick. Let's move on and so talk about another team that's finished up the regular season. Now it's championship time, and that's your cross country. You've got the ECC championships coming up this weekend. How has training looked for them, and what are they doing to ensure that when we reconvene next week, you have 2 team titles hanging behind you and some individual titles as well?
Well, it's interesting because, since I've become athletic director, I've learned so much about cross country. When I'm used to running, 60 feet at a time. And if you get lucky, you get to run 120. Or excuse me, 90 feet. Gosh, it's been a long time since I've been with baseball.
I just assumed you were on this. I just assumed you were into the softball league now.
I was running to the pitcher's mound there. So, running cross country was mind blowing to me. Mm-hmm. So in watching these kids, I've learned, and our coaches, Andy Wolf and Carrie Lee, do such a great job. Obviously in your first meet of the year, you want to win. There's no doubt about it. But that time is not very important in the grand scheme of things. Yeah. What time is important is the time that you're running at the end of the year. And I would say this, the fact that we were in a meet this past weekend, and it was an interesting meet, kind of like the dual meet, but we Ian Loudon finishes first. Sam Mizukawa finishes second. Alex Kalowak finishes fifth. Audrey Baker finishes second in the girls. For those kids to see how they're improving is incredible, and every course is different. So every time is going to be different, but from talking to the coaches and hearing from them after this past weekend, they are prime and they are ready to go into our conference tournament. And the kids' confidence level should be sky high right now. And athletics is so much about having confidence. And, Trudy Schellenberger is one of the best senior leaders I've ever seen. And she constantly, we've talked about her before, she constantly pushes Audrey Baker to be the best. And so, here's this freshman that's basically taken over the reins from Trudy. And Trudy continues to cheer her and push her to go faster and faster and faster. And it's a great relationship to see.
And good to see that Trudy's not only able but willing to embrace that role of mentor. Not because not a lot of kids do that.
You're right.
A lot of kids, get into their junior, senior high school, and they're some of them not some kids in places they've already got one foot out the door. I'm worried about college. I'm just worried about how better I can get my time. Maybe I can have a college look at me. But to see her, pass that on to the younger class, I think that's speaks volumes to her character as well, and also the way the program has been built up over the years. So best of luck to them in the ACC championships. As we said, hopefully there'll be a couple titles sitting behind you when we reconvene next week for that. But let's move on to the golf course, and they're not done either. So we get the Miller boys through on the boys' side, and Megan Bryan does what she does. Ho hum just advances on on the girls' side. Onto the districts. Teams weren't able to get through, unfortunately. Tough break there, but there were a lot of really good quality teams that you saw out there at the sectionals. But nevertheless, to get the Miller boys through on the boys' side, and now Megan Bryan over on the girls' side, now things change a little bit because it's now the focus turns to, okay, how do we get Coleman and Jackson Miller ready and through to the next round, and also Megan Bryan? How does that dynamic work within the teams that now the focus is on Megan Bryan for the girls and the Miller boys on the boys' side?
Well, I mean, I can just speak from what I see in our boys. And, there's no doubt about it. Golf is an individual game. But you have to have a special bond within your team because you can be shooting a 95 and you've got to be celebrating your your partner who shot a 73, and that's the difficult thing with kids. Sometimes you go 0 for 4 with 4 strikeouts and you feel bad, but your team won 6-5. Well, yeah. you have to forget about the 0 for 4 and you got to focus on team. And I saw that on last week. Our boys, we had a couple of guys that struggled, and that, that's golf. There's no doubt about that.
Sure.
But I got to tell you, Coleman Miller shooting a 73, it was just lights out. And, I'm going to say this about Coleman, and I love this. And this is just, maybe it's not, maybe it's not the greatest of golf plays, but to me, it was one of the most exciting things. Coleman Miller is just, I think he's even on the 18th hole. Mm-hmm. He's got a very, 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 very tough shot. Okay. He can play it safe and probably par the hole and be even, or he can go for it and go 1 under. And I got to tell you, kids that have the guts to say, let's go. It just excites me so much. And boy, he got after it, hit a drive. He went right at it. He didn't even think about it. And unfortunately, the ball went in the drink. Okay.
That's golf.
Put the ball back down, went out, salvaged, I think a 5, mm-hmm. and went in with a 73 and qualified. But to me, I think of the movie 10 Cup, right? Where the guy put the ball down like 10 times and hit the same shot and finally hit it. Mm-hmm. To me, having the guts to do that, being willing to take the chance there's always going to be a chance of failure, but not worrying about that chance. Yeah. That made me so happy. So then you go in and Coleman's qualified at a 73. Then we're sitting there waiting. Jackson has a 78 and we've got no idea because there's a lot of people still on the course. And, Jackson kind of stayed to himself, and their teammates knew that. And so, the Jake Parishes, the leaders of the squad, they didn't bother Jackson. They celebrated Coleman. And then when it was time to go for the four-person playoff, man, Jake Parish had the guys rallied, ready to go. And it was a kind of like a PGA Tour atmosphere because the tee box was crowded, the fairway was crowded, the green was crowded. And then you watch, and I said this 1,000 times, I've never seen a young man in Jackson Miller that was so confident in his abilities. We talked about his mom and his dad providing the opportunities in the summer and taking them to tournaments and doing all this and providing those things. He'd been there before. He'd walked down that fairway with people on there. He'd been around a crowded green before. Yep. So when it came up time to knock down a 23-foot birdie, it was no big deal. And again, just to see that kind of success that kids have, they take it by the throat and they say, let's go, was awesome. And our kids celebrated tremendously with him. And in turn, Jason, I know I'm going long here, but in turn, Megan Bryan was the exact same way. Our girls, we had some girls that struggled, but man almighty, when it was playoff time, they were so giddy for Megan, they couldn't wait. Mm-hmm. And you know, watching when Megan won in her playoff hole, and watching the girls, you know, jump all over, and unfortunately they weren't practicing social distance, but you know what?
You get caught up in the moment.
That's exactly right. You know, and I was so happy to see that. And same thing for the boys.
Yeah.
Our team celebrated in those individuals' successes. And that is, as an athletic director, when you watch that, and as a coach, when you watch that, there's nothing better to see your kids celebrate like that together.
Well, it's especially exciting because you said Jackson and Megan have to go to a 4-person playoff to determine the fourth individual to go through. So the tensions are even higher. But you know, like you said, also all three of them, the Miller boys and Megan Bryan, all seemingly carry that attitude of expecting to win, not hoping to win. And there's a huge difference there. I mean, you've seen that throughout your time there. There's a huge difference between hoping to win and expecting to win. And these three have always seemed like, in all of our conversations about them, they expect to go out there and get the job done. You talked about Coleman on 18, chance to play it safe, probably get him with a par there, finish at 72, but he decides, no, I'm going for it. I want that one extra shot. Didn't go his way, still was able to rally and finish with 73. So good things there for all three of them, and best of luck to them into the districts here. And let's wrap up and talk about your football team, because they're in action this coming week. You know, after getting the bye week in the playoffs last week, they're going to get Tays Valley to begin the playoffs. And of course, Tays Valley took Briggs behind the woodshed last week. Tays Valley beat Briggs 68-0 in the first. I
didn't know that.
Yeah, 68-0. So Tays Valley's coming in feeling pretty darn good about themselves, especially offensively. So they're going to be ready to go. You know, we talked in the last few times we talked about your football team, about your defense, and how it's kind of been an up and down kind of season defensively. We know your offense is going to score. Everybody knows your offense is going to score. Jackson Kuhn has been off the charts all season long and leading that offensive attack. They're going to put points on the board. We're not concerned about that. But you know, your defense also did have, you know, the shutout at the end of the year, played well towards the end of the year, and they had a week to sit on that. But as we said, Tays Valley put 68 on the board a week ago. So they're seemingly ready to go. Is it your expectation, maybe not the coaches, but your expectation, we could see a shootout here between these two teams?
You know, that can happen at any time with our team, because, you know, things can change drastically. You know, if we get up early, then you kind of just, you know, you kind of play a defense that, hey, if they drive it a little bit, that's okay. Let's make them take some time off the clock and stuff like that. But, you know, my hopes are that the kids learn from their experiences throughout the year of the importance of practicing, and not only practicing, but practicing well, and the importance of not thinking about what happened the past week. It's about the focus on this week. Mm-hmm. So a shootout, I don't expect a shootout. I expect us to score some points, but I also expect us to play very solid defense, you know, as we've talked. I expect our team to get in, our defensive kids to get in there and through film to understand what's going on. And this is neat, playing a team that you don't play against ever. Yep. So this really is going to find out who prepares the most for the game. And I'm excited. I know Coach Dreyer will have them ready to go. But our kids got to understand, this is about preparation. You know, Friday night's win starts today. You know, it started at 7 this morning. They were practicing at 7 o'clock this morning. That's when winning this first playoff game Friday night started. Okay. So when our kids buy into that, we're going to be just fine.
Yeah, we'll certainly see how those preparations go once it manifests on the field this coming Friday as Anderson takes on Tays Valley in round 2 of the playoffs. First game for Anderson, as I said, Tays Valley coming off of a really big win last week. But nevertheless,
wow, that's a lot of points.
68-0 in round 1. that's a heck of a way to start your playoff run. But now the competition ramps up even more. As you know, you've got a very good football team
Yeah.
there. We're certainly looking forward to that. A great week we've had at Anderson High School this past week, and still a lot more to get through going forward. Newton, appreciate the time.
Heck yeah, as always. Thank you. We'll see you
Absolutely.
next week.
You got it. That is Anderson Athletic Director Chris Newton joining us for This Week in Anderson High School Sports here on ESP Media, powered by Sidearm Sports.